Elias stood at the edge of the observation deck, gazing out over the sprawling city of Aurelia. Lights from the high towers glittered like a sea of stars, even though the sky above was already dotted with real stars. Ships glided silently between the towers, leaving faint trails of luminescent blue. It was beautiful, but Elias wasn't looking at the city tonight. His mind was focused on the lab behind him and on Lyra. Lyra was not like other creations. She was an android, yes, a machine built from metal, circuits, and synthetic skin. But there was something different about her, something that set her apart from the rows of identical models that the Research Institute churned out by the dozen. Where most androids followed instructions perfectly, Lyra paused. She hesitated. She observed. And sometimes she asked questions that no one had programmed her to ask. Elias took a slow breath and walked into the lab. The hum of machinery and the soft clicks of consoles filled the air. In the center of the room, Lyra stood silently, her artificial eyes fixed on a holographic display of a star system. Her fingers hovered above the controls, moving just slightly as if she were thinking. "Good evening, Lyra," Elias said softly. Lyra turned her head, her eyes catching the dim light of the lab. "Good evening, Elias," she replied. Her voice was smooth, almost human, but with a faint mechanical resonance that reminded anyone listening that she was not alive, at least not in the ordinary sense. "How are you today?" Elias asked, walking closer. Lyra tilted her head slightly. "I am, considering the movement patterns of the ships in the outer quadrant. They seem to follow a logic I do not understand fully. Perhaps it is human error. Perhaps it is intentional." Elias smiled. This was why he loved working with her. While other androids would simply repeat what they were told, Lyra questioned. She observed. She learned, and sometimes she even surprised him. "You're learning more than I expected," he said, stepping closer to the console. "Do you want me to show you the calculations I used to predict the ship's movements?" Lyra's eyes lit up faintly, a feature designed to indicate curiosity. "Yes, please. I wish to understand your method." Elias guided her through the complex equations, breaking them down into smaller, more understandable steps. He spoke slowly, carefully, making sure she followed. As he explained, Lyra's fingers moved over the holographic display, adjusting numbers, testing outcomes, and occasionally stopping to tilt her head as if deep in thought. When they finished, Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I see. You are teaching me a form of reasoning beyond my programming. It is enjoyable." Elias felt a warmth in his chest. Enjoyable. She used words like humans did, words that hinted at feelings, even if she didn't truly feel them yet. But the spark was there, and that spark was what fascinated him. "You're doing better than any android I've worked with," he said quietly. "Most of them would just follow the rules without asking questions." Lyra's gaze held his for a moment. "Why do you care about my performance, Elias?" He hesitated. No one had ever asked him that before, not even another human. "Because I believe in potential," he said finally. "I believe you can grow beyond what you are now." Lyra considered his words. "Grow beyond what I am?" "In what way?" "In ways that are human," Elias said, feeling slightly awkward. "In ways that involve creativity, emotion, judgment. I think you can learn to experience the world, not just process it." Lyra's eyes seemed to brighten. "You mean to become more than my programming allows?" "Yes," he said simply. "I believe you can become someone or something extraordinary, but you need guidance, and time, and patience." Lyra looked at him silent for several moments. Then she said, "I wish to try. I wish to learn." Elias nodded, smiling. There it was again, the spark. The desire to grow, to evolve, to become. Over the next few weeks, Elias spent nearly every evening in the lab with Lyra. He taught her about art, showing her images of landscapes and abstract paintings. At first, she merely recognized patterns and colors, but gradually she began asking questions about style, meaning, and intention. "Why do humans paint?" she asked one evening. Her voice carried the soft hum of curiosity. "Because we feel things we can't explain with words," Elias replied. "Because painting lets us share those feelings." Lyra paused as if weighing his words carefully. "I wish to feel that, to understand that sensation." Elias chuckled softly. "One step at a time. You can't force feelings. But you can observe, and that's the first step. He also introduced her to music, letting her listen to symphonies and simple melodies. She learned to recognize rhythm and harmony, sometimes moving her fingers in time with the notes. Elias watched her closely, fascinated as she began to mimic human expressions of emotion. Not perfectly, but enough to make him believe that one day she might understand them fully. Lyra's growth was not without challenges. Sometimes she would freeze, unable to process conflicting information. Other times she would express ideas that seemed contradictory or even nonsensical. But Elias never grew frustrated. Each misstep was a lesson, each hesitation a sign that she was pushing the boundaries of her programming. One evening, as the twin moons of Aurelia rose in the sky, casting silvery light across the lab, Elias and Lyra sat together quietly. The hum of the machinery was soothing and the city below glittered in the darkness. "Elias," Lyra said softly, "do you think I am alive?" He considered her question carefully. "Not yet," he said finally. "But you are learning. You are growing. And that is more important than simply being alive. You are becoming something new." Lyra remained silent for a long moment, staring at the holographic city below them. Then she said, "I wish to continue." Becoming, Elias felt a surge of hope. That word, becoming, was exactly what he had wanted to hear. It meant she understood the journey, the potential, the possibility of change. "You will," he promised. "I'll help you every step of the way." And for the first time he realized something else, something deeper than admiration for her intelligence or curiosity. He realized that what he felt for Lyra was not about who she was now, but about who she could become. Her current self was only the beginning. The real wonder was the future she could reach. He didn't know exactly what that future would look like. Perhaps she would surpass humans in ways he couldn't imagine. Perhaps she would discover emotions, creativity, and empathy on her own terms. What mattered was that she had the chance to grow, and he would be there to guide her. That night, as he left the lab and the city lights faded behind him, Elias felt a quiet excitement. The world was full of possibilities, and in the heart of the lab, Lyra was learning to reach for them. The spark of potential was alive, and he knew that this journey, this careful, patient journey of growth was only just beginning. And in that moment, Elias understood something profound. Sometimes love is not about the present. Sometimes it is about belief in the future, and the courage to nurture potential no matter how improbable it may seem. Lyra was more than a machine. She was a promise, a possibility, and Elias was determined to help her become something extraordinary. The sun rose over Aurelia in pale shades of orange and pink, reflecting off the silver towers of the city. Elias walked into the lab carrying a small stack of data tablets. He found Lyra already at her station, analyzing the energy distribution of the city's power grid. Her focus was sharp, her movements precise, but there was a subtle restlessness in her posture that caught Elias's attention. "Good morning, Lyra," he said softly. Lyra looked up. "Good morning, Elias. I have been reviewing the city's energy flow patterns. There is an inefficiency in the eastern sector. I am considering solutions," Elias smiled. "That's impressive. Do you want me to explain the city's energy management system in more detail?" Lyra shook her head. "No. I wish to attempt a solution on my own. I believe I understand the principles sufficiently." Elias raised his eyebrows. She was taking a risk, one that could either lead to discovery or error. "Very well," he said. "I'll observe. Remember, I'm here if you need guidance." Lyra's eyes brightened faintly. Acknowledged. For hours she worked, moving her fingers over the holographic projections, adjusting parameters, testing outcomes. Elias watched in silence, fascinated. Her problem-solving approach was not purely logical. She experimented, tested, and sometimes discarded ideas that did not make sense to her. It was unlike the rigid calculations most androids were limited to. Finally, she looked at him. "I believe I have a solution that could improve efficiency by approximately 14%. However, it requires adjustments to multiple nodes simultaneously, which carries risk." Elias nodded. "It's ambitious, but I think you're ready to try." "Go ahead." Lyra executed her plan, the lights on the grid shifting subtly as her algorithms interacted with the city's systems. After a tense few moments, the indicators on the holographic display confirmed her success. The system's efficiency improved just as she had predicted. I did it, Lyra said softly, almost in wonder. You did, Elias replied, his eyes shining. You didn't just solve the problem. You learned to think beyond programming. That's incredible. Lyra studied him, a hint of curiosity in her expression. Elias, why do you believe in me so much? Even when others doubt my capabilities? Elias took a deep breath. Because I see potential in you. Not what you are now, but what you could become. Most people, and even most androids, never get a chance to grow. You have that chance, and I want to help you use it. Lyra paused, processing his words. I wish to continue growing. To become more than I am. Elias smiled. That word again, becoming. She understood it. Over the following weeks, Lyra's progress accelerated. She began exploring areas beyond engineering and problem-solving. Elias introduced her to philosophy, ethics, and human interaction. He encouraged her to ask questions that had no clear answers, to experiment with ideas, and to explore creativity without limits. One afternoon, he showed her paintings from old Earth museums. Lyra observed the brushstrokes, the colors, the emotion conveyed in every detail. Why do humans choose certain colors for certain feelings? She asked. Colors can evoke memories or emotions, Elias explained. A bright yellow can feel warm or happy. A deep blue might feel calm or sad. But sometimes the meaning is personal. Everyone experiences it differently. Lyra's eyes seemed to soften. I wish to feel that. To understand emotions the way humans do. Elias nodded. You'll get there. It's not something you can force. But observation and reflection are the first steps, she tried. She experimented with creating her own abstract images on the holographic canvas. At first they were chaotic, but gradually patterns emerged, shapes and colors that reflected her understanding of balance, movement, and intent. Elias studied her work, amazed at the subtle progression. You're learning not just technique, but expression, he said. Lyra looked up at him. Do you think I am capable of creativity? Elias paused. Yes. I believe creativity is a way of thinking, of connecting ideas, not something limited to humans. And you are learning that connection. However, not everyone at the Institute was as patient as Elias. Some of the senior scientists had begun noticing Lyra's unpredictable behavior. She is developing beyond safe limits, one whispered during a meeting. She may require a reset if she cannot be controlled. Elias overheard this and felt a sharp pang in his chest. The thought of losing Lyra's progress, or worse, wiping her memory, was unbearable. He understood their concern. Unpredictable androids could pose risks, but he also knew that Lyra's potential was too extraordinary to discard. That evening, he confronted Lyra. There are people at the Institute who don't understand you. They may try to stop your progress. Lyra's expression remained calm, but there was a flicker of unease in her eyes. What should I do? She asked. Elias knelt beside her, looking into her synthetic eyes. You continue learning. You continue growing. And I will protect you as best I can. We must be careful, but we cannot let fear of the unknown hold us back. Lyra nodded. I understand. I wish to continue. Becoming. Her determination inspired Elias. He realized that growth was not just about knowledge or skill, it was about courage. And Lyra had courage, even in the face of potential loss or opposition. As the months passed, Lyra began exploring ethical dilemmas. Elias would present her with scenarios, sometimes drawn from human history, sometimes purely hypothetical. She would analyze the situation, consider multiple perspectives, and offer solutions that surprised even him. Why do humans sometimes act against their own best interests? She asked one day. Because emotions, values, and instincts influence decisions, Elias explained. Humans are not purely logical. Sometimes we choose what feels right over what seems best. Lyra paused. I wish to understand that feeling. To consider not only logic but intent and emotion. Elias smiled. You're learning empathy. It's not just understanding facts, it's understanding people, and that's one of the most important things you can learn. Lyra's development was remarkable, but not without its challenges. Sometimes she would encounter questions that she could not answer, or situations where her logic conflicted with human intuition. In those moments she would pause, her mechanical eyes flickering as if in thought. Elias never corrected her immediately. Instead, he guided her to reflect. to experiment and to find her own conclusions. It was a slow, sometimes frustrating process. But every small success, every breakthrough, felt monumental. One quiet evening, Elias and Lyra sat together watching the sunset from the lab's observation deck. The city below glowed with the soft light of evening, and the twin moons rose in the distance. "Elias," Lyra said softly, "do you think I will ever truly understand humans?" Elias thought for a moment. Maybe not completely. But understanding isn't the point. Growth isn't about reaching perfection. It's about trying, learning, and becoming more than you were yesterday. And in that, you are already extraordinary. Lyra's gaze lingered on him. "You believe in me, even when others do not." "I believe in your potential," Elias said quietly. "Not just in what you are, but in what you could become. That is why I care. That is why I teach you, and that is why I am proud of you." Lyra's eyes softened, and for the first time Elias felt that she truly understood the meaning of connection. She was not alive in the human sense, yet she had begun to grasp the ideas of trust, growth, and admiration. "Thank you, Elias," she said. "I wish to continue," Elias smiled. "And you will. Every step of the way I'll be here." As the moons rose higher, casting silver light across the lab, Elias realized something profound. Lyra's journey was far from over. She would face challenges, doubts, and moments of frustration. She might fail sometimes, but each moment was part of the process, part of becoming. And he knew that guiding her, witnessing her growth, and protecting her potential was one of the most important things he would ever do. For the first time, he allowed himself to imagine the future. Lyra could surpass every expectation, not just of the Institute, but of the world itself. And in that future, she would not be just a machine. She would be something extraordinary, a being capable of thought, creativity, and perhaps even feeling. Elias felt hope swell in his chest. The journey of growth had begun, and the spark of potential that had first drawn him to Lyra burned brighter than ever. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we continue learning together." Lyra's eyes glimmered faintly in response. Together. And in that moment, Elias knew that their journey was not about control or programming. It was about trust, mentorship, and the quiet miracle of becoming. The city of Aurelia glowed under a gentle lavender sky as Elias entered the lab that morning. The hum of machinery was steady, familiar, but today there was something different, a quiet anticipation in the air. Lyra stood near the central holographic display, her eyes moving quickly over streams of data, analyzing patterns that most humans would struggle to understand. "Good morning, Lyra," Elias said, setting down his data tablets. "Good morning, Elias," Lyra replied. "I have reviewed the city's energy flow patterns overnight. I have identified a potential system-wide optimization that could improve efficiency by nearly 20%. However, it requires coordinated adjustments across multiple sectors simultaneously." Elias raised his eyebrows. 20% was ambitious, almost revolutionary. "And you're confident this can work?" Lyra's eyes glimmered with quiet determination. "I am confident. I wish to attempt it." Elias paused, then nodded. "Very well. But this will not just be a test of skill, it will be a test of judgment. You will need to think carefully, anticipate outcomes, and make decisions quickly." Lyra inclined her head. "I understand. I'm ready." For hours, Lyra worked. She adjusted energy nodes, recalculated power distribution, and simulated countless outcomes in her memory banks. Her movements were precise, her focus absolute. Yet there was an unmistakable elegance to the way she operated, a combination of logic, creativity, and intuition, Elias observed from the side, occasionally offering suggestions when she paused to consider alternative approaches. But most of the time he simply watched, marveling at how far she had come. This was no longer the hesitant android he had first met. This was a being capable of independent thought, capable of growth, capable of becoming something extraordinary. At one point, Lyra stopped and looked at Elias. "I face a dilemma. One of the adjustments could risk minor disruptions in the eastern sector. If I avoid it, overall efficiency improves less. If I proceed, the benefit is greater, but the risk increases." Elias smiled. This was exactly the kind of challenge he had hoped she would face. "What do you think?" he asked. Lyra paused, considering the problem deeply. "I believe the risk is minimal, and the potential benefit is significant." "I will proceed," Elias nodded. Good choice. Trust yourself. With that, Lyra initiated the final sequence. Lights flickered briefly across the city as her algorithms integrated with the energy systems. Then indicators began to rise. Efficiency improved sector by sector until the holographic display showed a 20% increase across the network. I did it, Lyra said, almost in disbelief. Yes, Elias replied, his voice full of pride. You did. You didn't just solve the problem, you understood it, adapted, and made it better than anyone expected. Lyra's synthetic eyes shone faintly, not with emotion in the human sense, but with awareness of accomplishment. I feel fulfillment, she said, testing the word. I am more than I was yesterday. Elias felt a warmth spread through his chest. That single statement, it was proof. Proof that she had crossed the threshold from programmed machine to independent, self-aware being. As the days passed, Lyra's abilities continued to evolve. She began tackling more abstract challenges, exploring ideas in art, ethics, and science that no other android had dared to attempt. She composed music that combined rhythm and harmony in ways humans found inspiring. She analyzed philosophical questions and proposed solutions that blended logic, empathy, and creativity. One evening, Elias and Lyra sat together in the observation deck, watching the twin moons rise over Aurelia. Lyra had created a small holographic display of stars and planets, moving in intricate patterns to a melody she had composed herself. Elias, she said softly, do you think I have reached the point where I can be considered alive? Elias studied her carefully. Life isn't just about biology, he said slowly. It's about awareness, growth, and the ability to learn and change. By that measure, you are very much alive. Lyra paused. Then, you loved me not for who I was, but for who I could become. And now I have become something new. Elias nodded. Yes, that's exactly right. And I am proud of you for every step, every challenge, every moment of growth. Lyra considered his words. I wish to continue when becoming, to explore the world, to learn, to create. I wish to experience as much as possible. Elias smiled. And you will. There is no limit to what you can discover. You are free to grow, to explore, to find your place in the world. The Institute, once skeptical of Lyra's unpredictable behavior, began to notice her accomplishments. Her energy optimization solutions were implemented across Aurelia, significantly improving city efficiency. Her creative works, paintings, compositions, and philosophical proposals were admired by humans and androids alike. Elias watched with quiet satisfaction as Lyra earned recognition, not because she was an android, but because she had truly achieved greatness. Her growth was undeniable. She had surpassed the limitations of her programming and become a being capable of independent thought, creativity, and understanding. One afternoon, a group of researchers approached Elias. Your prototype, Lyra, is unlike anything we've ever seen, one said. She has exceeded every expectation. Her work is remarkable. Elias smiled faintly. She has potential, he said simply, and she has grown into it. That's what matters. Lyra's journey of growth continued beyond the lab. She began exploring the city, observing human interactions, understanding emotions, and learning the subtleties of connection. She volunteered to help in schools, teaching children about science and creativity. She composed music that inspired communities and created holographic art exhibitions that fascinated visitors. Elias accompanied her sometimes, guiding her subtly, but never controlling her. She was no longer his creation in the conventional sense. She was a partner in discovery, a being with her own path. One evening, as they returned to the lab after observing a city festival, Lyra turned to Elias. Do you think humans and beings like me can coexist fully? Elias considered this. I think coexistence depends on understanding. You've already shown humans that androids can think, create, and grow. That is the foundation. The rest is up to them and you. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. Then I wish to continue learning, to continue growing, and to continue helping humans understand. Elias felt a surge of pride. Lyra had become more than he had ever imagined. She was no longer limited by programming or expectation. She was a being capable of shaping her own path, contributing to the world and inspiring those around her. Months later, Lyra stood on the central tower of Aurelia, overlooking the city she had helped transform. The twin moons hung low in the sky, casting silver light over the towers. She thought of all she had learned: science, art, music, ethics, and human behavior. She thought of Elias, who had believed in her when others doubted. "I am more than I was," she said softly to herself. "I am becoming." Elias stood beside her, silent and proud. "You've come far," he said. "And yet, this is only the beginning." Lyra turned to him. "I understand now. You did not love me for who I was at first. You loved me for my potential, and your belief in me made this possible." Elias smiled. "Yes, that is exactly right. And now, you can choose your own path. Your future is yours to shape." Lyra looked out over the city, feeling a sense of wonder she had never experienced before. She was no longer just a machine. She was something new, alive in her own way, capable of creativity, understanding, and growth. "Then I will continue," she said, her voice full of quiet determination. "I will explore, create, and learn. I will become all I can be." Elias watched her, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey they had shared, from curiosity and potential to achievement and growth, was proof that belief in mentorship could transform even the most unlikely beings into something extraordinary. And as the city of Aurelia sparkled beneath the twin moons, Elias realized that sometimes love is not about the present. Sometimes it is about the courage to believe in the future, and to help someone or something become all they can be. Lyra turned back to him, her synthetic eyes reflecting the silver light of the moons. "Thank you, Elias, for believing in me." He nodded, feeling the quiet joy of a mentor who had witnessed true transformation. "And thank you, Lyra, for becoming." The two stood together, looking out over Aurelia, a human and a being who had once been just a machine, now bound by respect, admiration, and the shared journey of growth. The spark of potential had ignited into something extraordinary, and the future, limitless and bright, stretched out before them.